The plate slipped before I even realized my fingers had lost their grip. 1 second, I was balancing it on my palm, weaving between tables with the strained grace of someone who'd been on their feet for 10 hours straight, and the next it was crashing to the marble floor. The sharp crack echoed through Bissimo like a gunshot. White porcelain shards skittered across the polished tiles, ricocheting off chair legs and stopping at the polished shoes of diners who suddenly forgot how to chew. A hush fell over the dining room. Conversations died mid-sentence, as if the entire place had inhaled and held the breath collectively. Heat surged up my neck, burning into my ears. I crouched quickly, my hand shaking as I began gathering shards to my apron. "Che diavolo, guardi," I muttered under my breath, just loud enough to be heard by the floor. "What the hell are you staring at?" The curse, my grandmother's curse, rolled out before I could swallow it back. Sharp, tired, honest. It slipped out like exhaustion made into language, and that's when I heard it. The front doors opened, not the normal chime and bustle of customers coming in. This was different. The air shifted, the way it does right before a storm touches down. The maître d', usually composed in his crisp black suit, nearly tripped over himself as he rushed forward. Mr. Moretti. What an honor. My stomach dropped. Not him. Not tonight. I kept my head down, fingers sweeping sharp porcelain fragments into my palm, trying to make myself small, invisible, air. But the restaurant didn't breathe again. It only tightened. From the corner of my vision, I saw him move through the entrance. 3 men flanked him, all in dark suits, shoulders broad, expressions carved from granite. But they weren't the ones who drew every eye in the room. It was him, tall, effortless, a presence rather than a person. His suit wasn't just expensive, it was tailored like a second skin. His hair was dark, styled with careless precision. His jaw could have been sculpted from marble, and his eyes, God help me, his eyes were what the night sky would look like if it wanted to devour you. Those eyes swept the room, assessing, calculating, controlling, and then they found me. I froze with a shard of porcelain pinched between my fingertips, and he heard. He had to have heard, because his gaze didn't slide past me the way powerful men tend to ignore those who serve them. No. He stopped, and the corner of his mouth moved, just slightly, but enough. A smile. Not mocking, not offended, interested. As if the girl kneeling in broken porcelain on the floor had just become the most fascinating thing in the room. My heart slammed so hard against my ribs I thought it might leave a bruise. I swallowed, forcing myself to look down again, to pretend I hadn't noticed. But the weight of his attention was a physical thing. Warm, heavy, possessive, even at a distance. Why? Why would a man like that look at someone like me? Before I could. "Scramble for an answer," a voice boomed from across the dining room. "Sophia, another one?" Mr. Donati's face flushed red, his irritation loud and public. "That's coming out of your paycheck." Laughter. A few whispers. I kept my eyes trained on the floor, even as humiliation burned down my spine. But I felt it before I saw it. That gaze again. No amusement this time. Something colder, sharper. As if the man who controlled this city in ways that never made the news had suddenly taken offense. Not at my clumsiness, but at someone else daring to speak to me like that. I dared a glance up. His eyes locked with mine. The world narrowed. Not a word was spoken, but the message was clear, terrifying, and undeniable. He had noticed me, and Alessio Moretti did not notice things without reason. Say that again. Slowly I kept, my head down while I cleaned the floor. My heartbeat felt too loud in my chest. I was sure everyone could hear it. The restaurant slowly began to breathe again, but his eyes were still on me. I could feel it. Heavy, focused, unmistakable. I stood up too, fast. The room tilted for a second. I forced myself to breathe. I forced myself to pretend like nothing had happened. My manager appeared beside me with a menu in hand. His voice was sharp and nervous. Table 7. Right now. Go, I already knew table 7 was his table. Of course it was. I stepped toward the table one small step at a time, like I was walking straight into the center of a storm. He sat with his back to the wall, a position chosen by someone who never allowed danger to approach unseen. His men sat around him, all stone faces and watchful eyes, but he was relaxed, as if nothing in this world could threaten him. Good evening. I managed. My voice did not break. I was proud of that small victory. His eyes moved slowly over me, not like a man undressing a woman, but like a man learning her. You cursed at me, he said. My breath caught. I had expected anger, punishment, mockery. But his tone was soft, dangerously soft, like silk pulled over steel. I swallowed hard. I did not know anyone heard. He leaned back in his chair just slightly, enough to show that everyone else in the room answered to him. Say it again, he said slowly. I should have apologized. I should have bowed my head. I should have said, I did not mean it. But exhaustion and grief, and something strange rising inside me made me speak instead. Che diavolo guardi. The words left my mouth like a spark catching fire. His eyes flashed, not with insult, not with anger, but with something that made my knees weaken. He breathed. So you speak Italian? Not really. Just a little. My grandmother taught me when I was a child. He nodded slow and thoughtful, like he had just uncovered a locked door and now held the key. Bring the wine yourself, he said. No one else. His men exchanged brief, uneasy glances. They did not understand why their boss was interested in a tired waitress who barely held herself together. But they said nothing. No one questioned him. I stepped away from the table, my heart racing, my hands shaking. But inside my chest, something had begun to wake. As I moved toward the bar to retrieve the wine, I felt eyes following me. Not the other customers, not the staff. Him watching, studying, choosing. I did not know whether I was walking toward salvation or ruin. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty, Alessio. Moretti had noticed me, and men like him did not notice by accident. They noticed with intent. They noticed with purpose. They noticed to claim, and somewhere deep inside I already knew. My life was no longer entirely mine anymore, the pioneer touch. That was not mistake. I carried the wine bottle with both hands, careful, focused. But my heart was not steady. It thudded fast, like it wanted to break out of my chest. Every step toward table 7 felt louder than footsteps should sound, as if the floor knew something was happening that could not be undone. His men were speaking quietly when I approached, but the moment I stopped beside the table, silence fell again. They did not look at me, but they felt me. The room felt me. I placed the wine bottle gently on the table, my fingers barely making a sound against the glass. Would you like to taste first? I asked softly. My voice sounded smaller than I wanted, but it did not shake. And somehow that mattered. One of the men laughed, low and mocking, pretty girl with trembling hands. He said, "Careful. We do not want another accident." His hand reached, his fingers brushed mine. Not accidental, not harmless, not respectful. Cold, unwanted touch slid across my skin before I could move, before I could Speak before breath fully formed in my lungs. Alizio spoke. That is enough. Vince. His voice was not loud, but the room reacted as if a blade had been drawn. The mocking man froze. Not in fear of me, but in fear of him. Sorry, boss, he muttered. Only joking. Is not here for your amusement. Alizio replied. His eyes had not left my face. Not once. Not even for a breath. He lifted the bottle himself and poured a slow measure of wine into the crystal glass. The motion was smooth, controlled power, unconcerned. With being witnessed, taste it, he said. It took me a moment to understand he meant me, not his men, not himself. Me. I hesitated. This was not how restaurants worked. Not with people like him, not with people like me. But his gaze held me still in place. So, I lifted the glass. My fingers brushed his when I did. Warmth shot through me like lightning through bone. I tasted the wine. Soft, expensive. Full of a world far from mine. Good, I whispered. His eyes darkened. Not anger. Something else. Something I did not have words for. Yet I lowered the glass. Set it down carefully, steadily. But my hand shook once. Just once. In that tiny tremor, he saw everything. Exhaustion. Fear, strength, control. Fire. His voice lowered to something that brushed the back of my neck like a touch. You do not break easily. Do you, Sophia Parker? I did not answer, because I did not know. His hand moved. Then just a simple gesture, not even touching my skin, but close enough that I felt the warmth of him like a promise made without language. Go, he said softly. Rest of the night blurred into noise. Steps, orders, voices. But I felt him watching, not like a predator. Watches prey, but like a storm chooses where to fall. When they finished their meal, I returned with the dessert plate. As I leaned forward, to place it, the same man, Vince, let his fingers brush my waist, too familiar, too bold, too confident that he could do what he wanted. I flinched back, and he smirked. That was the moment the world shifted. Because Alizio did not speak. He simply looked. At him one look, and the air in the room changed. The silence became harder, sharper, heavier. Vince looked away first. And in that moment, I understood power. Real power was not loud. It was quiet. It was controlled. It was him. When they finally stood to leave, I expected him to walk out without another glance. Men like him did not offer explanations. They simply left. But he stopped beside me. He reached into his coat and lifted something between his fingers. A silver bracelet, worn delicate. My mother's bracelet, it must have fallen earlier. He fastened it gently back around my wrist. His voice was quiet enough only I could hear. Take care of precious things, Sophia. They disappear. If you are not careful. His hand lingered one breath longer than necessary. Then he walked away, leaving me standing there with my heart no longer where it belonged. But somewhere in his hands, the car. That waited in the dark. The shift ended long after the restaurant lights dimmed and the last table was cleared. My body felt heavy like it had been carved from stone. My back hurt. My feet ached. My hands still shook from the moment his fingers touched. My wrist, I told myself to forget him. To forget the look in his eyes. To forget how his voice felt like it was speaking to something deep inside me. Not my ears, but my bones. I stepped outside into the night air, cool and sharp. I pulled my jacket tighter. Around me. The street was quiet. Only the sounds of distant traffic and a flickering street lamp above. I walked toward the bus stop. It sat empty, lonely. The schedule taped to the metal post told me I had missed the last bus by 15 minutes. I sighed. Too tired to even feel frustrated I could walk. It was far, but I could do it. My body would move because it had to. I took one step away from the bus stop. That was when I saw the car black sleek. A shadow more than a vehicle. The kind of car that did not belong on my street. The kind that belonged behind mansion gates and guarded doors. The back window lowered slowly, like an invitation, like a warning. He sat inside Alessio Moretti, his face half lit by the street lamp, half hidden by shadow. "Get in," he said, not loud, not forceful, just certain. I froze. My heartbeat stumbled. I should say, no, I should run. I should not get into cars with men like him, men whose names made entire neighborhoods lower their voices. I appreciate the offer, but I can walk, I said. He tilted his head slightly, his gaze unreadable. The last bus left already. You would be walking for over an hour. At night alone. It was not a threat. It was a statement, a fact carved into silence. I held my breath. "Why are you here?" I asked. "Because you dropped your bracelet," he said. But the bracelet was already on my wrist, fastened by his hands, warm from his touch, safe. My confusion must have shown on my face. His eyes softened almost imperceptibly, and because I did not want the night to end, there's something inside my chest tightened. Not fear, something else. Something I could not name, still I hesitated. His voice lowered. It was not a request. But it was not a command, either. Just truth. A truth that wrapped itself around my spine. "I will not hurt you. Sophia." My breath caught the way he spoke my name. Gentle. Like it meant something, I stepped closer to the car. The door opened silently. The leather seats looked untouched, too perfect for my tired uniform and worn shoes. But I sat, slowly, carefully. The door closed behind me with a soft sound. Final sealed. The car pulled away from the curb. The city lights passed outside the window like slow-moving stars. We did not speak at first. He studied me with a gaze that saw too much, saw the exhaustion. In my shoulders saw the grief that lived behind my eyes, saw the quiet strength I tried not to show. "You speak Italian," he said eventually. "Only a little." I whispered. "Just what my grandmother taught me. Say something." He murmured. My throat tightened. Voice came out soft. Barely a breath. "Buonanotte, good night." His eyes finally softened fully. Not cruel, not cold. Just human. "Buonanotte, Sophia." My heart remembered how to beat again. I should have been afraid. I should have been trembling. I should have wanted to escape. But instead, I found myself wishing the ride would never end. Because sitting in that car, beside the man whose name carried both fear and power, I felt something I had not felt in a very long time. Seen. The second time was not chance. The next. Morning arrived too fast. Sleep barely touched me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. His eyes. The way he said my name like it was something worth holding. I tried to shake it off. I tried to remind myself who he was, what he was. Men whispered, his name with caution. Women prayed their sons never crossed his path. He was the kind of man who controlled danger, not avoided it, but my heart had already started moving toward him. And I did not know how to stop it. I had taken an extra shift at the small cafe near the river. Not as fancy as the restaurant, slower, quieter. The kind of place where old men played cards and students shared textbooks. I liked it here. The coffee machine hissed like a friendly animal. The air smelled like warm bread and cinnamon I could breathe. The bell above the door chimed, and I looked up, expecting a familiar face. A regular A neighbor, but the room seemed to inhale instead. Like it recognized him before I did. He walked in wearing the same quiet confidence. No guards this time. No shadows following behind him. Just him. He saw me instantly. Not by accident. Not by chance. As if he already knew I would be there. My pulse jumped. My hands steadied. My voice did not shake when I spoke. "Good morning." His eyes softened, in a way that felt dangerous. Dangerous because it was real. "You left without finishing the conversation," he said. I blinked. There had been no conversation. Not really, only breaths and tension and something unnamed. He sat at the counter. Not a table where men like him usually sat, but the counter, across from me. Close. "What can I get you?" I asked softly. He watched the way I moved. Slow. Intent. As if every detail mattered. "I will have whatever you think I will like," he said. No man had ever said something like that to me. Most men told me what to do, how to behave, how to serve. He was asking me. I made the coffee the way my grandmother taught me, rich, warm. A touch of sweetness to soften bitterness, like love, she used to say. Even when love hurts, you do not. Stop giving sweetness. I set the cup in front of him. He took one sip and closed his eyes. Perfect. He whispered. Not about the drink. About the moment. About me. About something he felt and did not hide. The door opened behind him and wind rushed in. A woman entered in heels and diamonds. Hair pinned like she lived in high places. She saw him. Her expression flickered from joy to jealousy in a blink. "Alicio," she said, "I have been calling you." He did not turn. He did not move. He did not look away from me. "Was busy," he said. She stared at me like I was dirt on the floor, but he kept looking at me. And the look said something I was afraid to understand. That woman left with anger burning behind her heels. But I stayed still, breathing the same air he breathed. "You have a kind heart," he said. "Too kind for this world." His words shook something loose inside me, something I had buried under work, debt, grief, loneliness. "I do not know how to be anything else," I answered. He leaned closer, close enough for his voice to brush my skin. "Then I will have to make sure this world does not break you." My heart stuttered. My breath caught. My thoughts scattered like birds. He was not flirting. He was not playing. He had decided something. And when a man like Alessio Moretti decided something, the world did not get to disagree. The invitation that was not request. The cafe quieted after the woman left. The bell over the door still swayed softly like the wind itself had been pulled into the moment and stayed to watch. I tried to look away from him, to let distance build where danger lived. But his presence closed the space between us without moving at all. He took another sip of the coffee I made, as if the world outside did not exist, as if nothing required his attention but this moment, and me inside it. "There is a charity gala tonight," he said. "It is important. People will talk. Deals will be made. Alliances balanced." I nodded. Even though none of that was my world. "I want you there," he said. My breath stopped. Not slowed. Stopped men like him. Did not ask women like me to stand beside them in rooms filled with power rooms, where everyone's eyes knew how to evaluate worth and subtract value just by breathing. I whispered. Too fast. Too raw. His expression did not change. No flash of anger. No disappointment. Just stillness that felt more intense than any emotion. Why, he asked. "Because I do not belong in your world." I said I am not polished. I do not know the rules. People will look at me. They will know I should not be there. "Good," he said. Heart stumbled. Good, I repeated. His eyes did not soften. They deepened, like the ocean just before a storm breaks open. If you looked like them, if you spoke like them, if you already belonged, then you would not be. You, he said, and I do not want anyone else. The room felt too warm, not from temperature but from the weight of meaning settling between us. I still shook my head, not out of refusal, but out of the terror of being seen too clearly. He noticed that too. He noticed everything. His voice lowered, until it barely touched the air between us. I am not asking you to perform. I am not asking you to pretend. I am asking you to stand beside me. Not as decoration, but because I want you there. My throat tightened. My chest ached. He reached into his coat and placed a small white box on the counter. No ribbon, no gold, no flourish, just quiet intention. I did not touch it. But I looked. I already knew what was inside. A dress. Not just any dress. A dress meant to be seen. A dress meant to be noticed. He stood, then slow, graceful, not rushed. Like time itself, waited for him. I will come for you at 8, he said. Not 8:05, not 8:30. 8 exactly. Precise. Like his presence, like his choices. I stepped forward, words on my tongue. I did not know how to speak. He paused. One breath away. Close enough I could feel warmth radiating from him but not touching me. You can say no, he said. The world held its breath. But if you say yes, this changes everything. My heart was no longer in my chest. It was in his. Hands weighted and fragile and pulsing, like it knew him already. I did not answer, because the answer had already formed inside me before he even asked. The moment he walked into the restaurant, the moment he fastened my mother's bracelet to my wrist, the moment he said buona notte in a voice that felt like prayer, he saw the answer in my silence. He did not smile. He only nodded 8. Then he walked out of the cafe. Doors closing softly. Quiet final. I stood still, the white box before me. My reflection caught in the metal of the coffee machine. A waitress, a tired girl with grief under her skin, and a man with power carved from shadow, wanted her to stand beside him, not by accident, not by interest, but by choice. My choice. I was no longer sure which was more frightening, the world he lived in, or the fact that part of me already wanted to step into it. The night that changed everything. The white box sat on my small kitchen table for hours. The room was quiet. Only the sound of my own breathing filled the space. I touched the lid once, then pulled my hand back as if it were fire. Because it was, in every way that mattered. When the clock on the wall reached 7:30, my heart began to pound. Not fast deep, like something ancient waking up inside me. I opened the box. The dress inside was emerald green, soft against my skin, beautiful in a way that felt unreal. It did not look like something for a waitress. It looked like something for someone who belonged to the night, someone who did not apologize for being seen. I slid it on with slow, careful hands. The fabric fell around me like water. I did not recognize myself in the mirror, but I was not pretending I was only seeing a part of myself I had forgotten, could exist at exactly 8. There was a knock at the door. I opened it. He stood there in a dark suit, sharp and quiet, like the night had shaped itself around him. His eyes traveled over me, not in hunger, not in ownership, but in recognition. "You are ready," he said. I nodded, even though my knees trembled. We walked to the car waiting outside, and the city lights passed around us, like stars pulled into motion. The gala was held in a glass building that rose into the sky. Light spilled from every window. Voices echoed inside. Laughter that did not reach the eyes. Music that sounded expensive rather than joyful. When we entered, people turned eyes, followed us in long, curious lines. Whispers formed like smoke rising. Who is she? Where did she come from? Why her? I kept my chin steady, my steps slow. Even though my heart shook in my chest, he placed his hand on my back. Steady. Warm, not claiming me. Guiding me. Protecting me without saying a word. A woman in a silver gown approached, her smile sharp and polished. She looked at him, then at me, and I felt the weight of her judgment. So this is the girl, she said. Her voice sweet, like sugar, hiding poison. I felt my breath catch my throat, tighten, but before I could speak, before fear could rise, his voice cut through the air. Be careful, he said. Her name carries more honesty than your entire family. The woman's smile cracked, just barely, and she stepped aside. He guided me further into the room. Eyes followed, some with curiosity, some with envy, some with quiet anger. We reached a balcony overlooking the city. Air cool and open after the heavy warmth of the crowd. I breathed. Finally, fully. He looked at the city lights. Then he looked at me. You do not realize what you are, he said. You think you are small, invisible, breakable, but you walk into rooms and the world pays attention, even if you do not. My chest tightened, not in fear, in something deeper, something close to ache. I spoke softly. I am afraid. He nodded once. As if that was the most natural answer in the world. So am I, he said. I looked up fast. Surprised. He was not supposed to say that men like him were not supposed to feel fear. But he said it anyway. And that truth was more intimate than any touch, more powerful than any kiss. The music from inside swelled gently. The city lights glowed like constellations laid out below us. And for a moment, the entire world felt still. This night was no longer a night. It was a beginning. Blood on. White silk. The balcony held silence like something sacred. The city lights moved below us in slow waves. I could feel his presence beside me, not touching, but surrounding. Like gravity, choosing where to pull. Then the doors behind us opened. The sound, sharp, heavy, urgent. One of his men stepped out, his expression tight, his eyes avoiding mine. He leaned toward Alicio and spoke in a voice just above a whisper. They are here. The warmth of the night shifted. Everything changed in an instant. The softness between us pulled back like a curtain, revealing something sharper underneath. Something real. Alicio turned to me, his gaze steady, calm, focused in a way that made the world around him fade. Stay here, he said. No anger, no fear. Just certainty. I wanted to speak. Ask what was happening. Ask who they were. Ask why his voice now felt like the edge of a blade. But I did not ask, because something inside me already knew. He walked back into the hall. His men followed. The doors closed silently behind him. The balcony became too quiet. The night air felt too thin. My breath shallow, uneven. I waited. Minutes stretched like thread, pulled too tight. Voices rose inside the ballroom, sharp, tense, cutting through laughter like knives in silk. Then I heard it. A crash. Glass breaking. Someone shouting. A struggle hidden by music. I wanted to move. To look. To run. Something inside me screamed to go to him. But something stronger told me to stay where I was. I stood with my hands gripping the cold railing, pressing my heartbeat into metal to stop it from shaking me apart. The doors opened again. He came out. There was no panic in him, no rush, no visible wound, but his white shirt sleeve carried a smear of red, dark and slow blood. Not mine, not his. Someone else's. He stopped beside me. The night wind moving his hair, his breath steady, his eyes steady, his world steady. He looked like a man who had walked through fire and did not bother to check if the flames touched him. I stared at the blood, the dark stain against the clean white fabric. My throat tightened, not from fear, from understanding. This was his world. This was not rumor, not shadow, not legend. This was real, and he had kept it away from me, not to hide it, but to protect me from what it would mean to truly see him. He waited for me to speak, to step back, to break, to run, to shatter. But I did not move. Instead, I asked the only question that mattered: "Are you hurt?" His eyes lifted to mine. A change flickered there. Something fragile, something human, something almost breakable. "No," he said softly. I nodded, my voice barely a breath. "Then we go home now." He exhaled. Not relief, but something close to it. Something he did not allow the world to see. He offered his hand. Not command, not claim invitation. I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed gently around mine, warm, steady, unshakable. We left the light of the gala. We left the whispers. We left the eyes watching us. And as the doors closed behind us, I understood something with terrifying clarity. This was not a story I could step in and out of. This was a world that held on once it touched you, and I had just stepped into it. Fully, completely, without taking a step at all, the offer that tried to end us. The car ride home was quiet, not empty, not cold, just full of everything unspoken. His hand rested over mine the entire time, not gripping, not holding, just there. Steady, as if grounding both of us. When we reached his building, the doors opened without him asking. People knew him here. People moved for him without needing words. He walked beside me, not in front of me. And that meant something. Something I felt more than understood. The elevator doors closed and the world narrowed to just us. The hum of motion filled the silence. His thumb brushed the back of my hand. Once. Slow soft. Like he was memorizing the shape of it, the feel of it, before anything could take it away. When the doors opened, we stepped into a quiet corridor lit by warm light. His home was not loud, not extravagant, not dripping in wealth, the way I expected. It was controlled. Beautiful, in the way silence is beautiful. He took off his jacket, the blood-stained sleeve of his shirt, visible now without shadow. I reached for it without thinking, my fingers brushing fabric. His breath caught, for the first time since I met him. "I can clean this," I said softly. "You do not have to," he replied. "I know," I whispered, "but I want to." His eyes held mine for a moment that felt like it rewrote something inside both of us, before I could turn away. A soft knock sounded at the door. Not urgent, but deliberate. He tensed, only slightly, but enough. He opened the door without asking. Who was there? His mother stood on the other side, elegant, calm, beautiful in a way that felt carved rather than born. Her eyes took in everything in one sweep, him. The blood on his sleeve, the emerald dress still draped over my skin. She stepped inside without being invited. The air shifted around her. She looked at me, not with hatred, not with cruelty, but with something deeper, something that knew how to measure pain and consequences like currency. "Come with me," she said. Her voice was gentle, but it carried weight that could not be refused. I followed her to the sitting room. She did not sit close. She gave space even while, filling every inch of the room with presence. She looked at me carefully, like she was searching for something buried beneath my skin. "You care for him?" she said. It was not a question. My throat tightened. I nodded once. She exhaled in a way that sounded like grief that had not yet become tears. "Then hear me, and hear me well." Her voice was not sharp, not threatening, just unbearably honest. "Loving a Moretti destroys women. It consumes. It leaves nothing of who you once were, and you are not built to break like that." I stared at her. Her words struck something inside me that already knew they were true. She opened her purse, pulled out a check, placed it gently on the table between us. 50,000, enough to pay your debts. Return to school. Begin again. Live quietly. Live safely. Live without fear of the world. He lives in the room felt smaller. My chest felt tight. My fingers trembled. But my voice did not. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. She looked at me with eyes that had seen the worst of love. "Because I loved a man like him once," she said. "And I did not survive it." The silence that followed felt endless. Heavy. Too heavy for someone like me to hold. She stood, leaving the check on the table. "Take it," she said. "Walk away while you still can, before he becomes the only world you know. If you stay, you will not leave. Not ever." She walked toward the door, but before she left, she paused, "And if you choose him, do not expect the world to grant you mercy." The door closed softly behind her. I stood staring at the check. $50,000, freedom, safety. A life without danger, without blood, without fear. A life without him. My heart whispered, not a life at all. I did not touch the check. I did not need to, because my answer was already living inside my chest, the decision that changed everything. The check sat on the table, like a silent doorway. One life on one side, another life on the other, both waiting for the next breath to decide everything. I stood there for a long time. The dress still wrapped around my body like memory. My hands still warm where his had held them. My heart still beating a rhythm that sounded like his name. The city lights outside flickered. The night, heavy thick, full of things that could not be spoken without changing the world. He found me there, standing, not moving, not crying, just breathing. Through the wait, he looked at the check. He did not ask what happened. He already knew. His eyes darkened, not with anger, not with shock, but with something raw. Unshielded human. She told you to leave. He said. I nodded. Soft. Slow. Truth did not have to. Be loud to be real. Do you want to go? He asked. No force. No command. No expectation. Just a question that cut straight through everything. I walked to him. My steps quiet. Bare feet against the polished floor. The distance between us closing like the last page of a story turning itself. I placed my hand on his chest, right where his heart lived, beneath bone and power and silence. I do not want money. I said I do not want safety. I do not want a life that does not feel like it is mine. His breath shook, just once. So small, most eyes would miss it. But I felt it. I want you. I whispered. The world did not explode. No thunder, no lightning. Just a stillness so deep it felt like the earth itself listened. He raised his hand and touched my jaw. Slow, careful, like I was something breakable. Not from weakness, but from worth. Then I need you to understand what that means. He said, because my world does not fade. It does not soften. It does not forgive. Once you enter it, there is no leaving. There is no going. Back to before. Not even in dreams I leaned forward, my forehead resting against his. Then let it be my world too. I said, his lips found mine. Not rushed, not hungry, but devastatingly full. A kiss that did not ask, did not take, did not demand. A kiss that answered, yes, the kind that changes the shape of a heart forever. We stood there in silence after two people. One choice. One fate. But fate was not finished. The elevator at the end of the hall chimed, soft at first, then sharp as the doors opened. Voices, footsteps, urgent. Rushed one. Of his men appeared, breathless eyes sharp with alarm. It is your brother, he said. Marco is gone and he did not go alone. My blood ran cold. Alessio's jaw tightened. Who did he take, he asked. The answer came slow. Heavy final, he took her grandmother's address book. The one with the old Italian names. He knows the girl's family ties now. He knows who she is. The world shifted under my feet, because the truth struck with no mercy. Marco had not left for vengeance. He left with intention. He left to use me. Alessio stepped closer, his hand tightening around mine. Not in claim, not in control, in protection. This is where the story truly begins, he said. The night wind moved through the open window. The city breathed below us. The danger sharpened. The love anchored. The line between fear and devotion disappeared. I did not let go of his hand. I did not tremble. I had chosen him. Fully, completely, irreversibly. And there was no world, no force, no enemy that could unchoose that. Now the story ended there, but the war for us had only just begun.